Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. One of the biggest challenges that people have who take my Inner Guidance Mastery Blueprint course is about whether or not they really can trust their inner guidance. So that's part trusting themselves and their own inner senses. And it's also part trusting the universe, presence, the energies, the divine, however you want to speak to that. And what I know is that this really requires a nuanced kind of exploration to bring it into your everyday life. Because why talk about inner guidance or intuition if it doesn't completely connect with the way you live your life? So what's important to me is to make that real. And that's the intention of my guest today, too. And I'm excited to have you join us for what I know will be a profound conversation. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute. Head there to discover your quantum connection with your inner guidance by taking the Quantum Connection quiz. We're each designed to connect differently with the universal field, with source. And knowing your own way of doing that is not about what kind of personality you have, but it really is the first step of aligning with your inner guidance at a deeper level than you ever thought you could. It's the secret to having abundant flow in your business and your personal life. So I've invited my friend Jennifer Urezzio, who is the founder of Soul Language. And I've invited her here to have this kind of incredible, I know it's going to be an incredible, juicy conversation. Because Soul Language, and she'll probably talk about this too, is a paradigm that puts tangibility to soul so a conscious connection can be established to enable crystal clear decisions for success. Jennifer is also a master intuitive and the author of 2 best-selling books. Currently, she has trained over 30 practitioners worldwide in soul language. There are over 5,000 individuals all over the world connecting to their soul language. And after we have this conversation, there will be 6,000. So welcome, Jennifer, to Wisdom Talk Radio. I'm really looking forward to being with you today.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. And I just know we're going to have, those deep, fun conversations that you go, oh, the time went by so quickly. We could talk forever. So I'm very excited about it.
Great. So when I asked you the question that I usually will ask my prospective guests, what are you most interested and excited to talk about? I'd say probably 80% of them don't really have something juicy at the ready. They think they have things that they have their standard template.
Yeah, that's sad.
So I have, it is. And I push a little, but with you, I didn't have to push at all. You said, you said trusting the divine, and there is a lot of stuff around that. A lot of metaphysical stuff that people either get thrown off with or just don't know what to make of it. So,
I mean, I think the first thing is what they call that thing, right? I think so often when I go to a client, so what do you call that? They're like, well, I call universe, or I call it divine, or mother. I'm like, yeah, okay, what name do you use when you're in pain? And that's the name you most resonate with for whatever reason. So let's clear up all of the debris around that so people really form a deeper relationship with that versus, having that kind of, well, I really call it God, but I'm really calling it like, something else over here. Right? I think that's so important. Right. I think that's so important. I had one person go, because I always say, well, when you're in pain, what's the name you call out to?
Mhm.
And the person went, I don't call out to anything when I'm in pain. And I went, oh, well, we need to really start there because what? Like,
Mhm.
really? Like, okay.
Do you
Right.
think
And
you
so
have to do this all by yourself?
I know, like, oh,
Mhm.
and I think that's also when people don't trust the divine, it's mainly because of a deeper reason, right? We've overlaid our relationship with our parents over to this thing called God, universe, tree, Bob's cupcake, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so it's really about untangling also those relationships of those original or origin relationships
Mhm.
that we've overlaid with divine.
Do you see, is this is something that I've seen, that it's also people's relationship with their own religious upbringing, and I use that distinctively, that word religious.
Yeah, no, it taints it. It can really, you know, sour the milk, so to speak.
Mhm.
Any painful experiences that they've had can also kind of form that relationship. I mean, I grew up Catholic,
Mhm.
and um I remember being, in CCD class, and they started this film about like abortion and like the all of the bad stuff about
Mhm.
abortion. And I remember the projector coming on, and then I remember the projector going off. And I don't remember anything in between that.
Wow.
And it must have been so, and I still don't to this day, it must have been so traumatic. Like when I was like 10,
Mhm.
that it, uh, and I remember for a long time going, wait. These people are supposed to take care of me.
Mhm.
And I felt very unsafe in
Mhm.
that environment because of that trauma. Um, and that for a while, as I was developing my new relationship, I use God. I wouldn't use God. I use
Mhm.
master planner. What kind of crazy name is that? And
Mhm.
I like that's my own crazy name, right? And it was like really establishing that relationship with the God goo again and
Mhm.
really letting go of any human overlay of that relationship because that's not the truth. That's
Mhm.
just, man's interpretation of what he thinks the truth is. And men in general, men and women,
Mhm.
get it wrong a lot, unfortunately.
And so so the first step is, okay, what do you call out to? Who do you call out to? And then what's the next piece of that?
It's clearing any of the debris that's in the way of having that relationship that isn't tainted with any other belief structure but your own. So I the other day I watched Through the Eyes of Tammy Faye
Mm.
about Tammy Faye Baker. And I knew nothing about her except for the Saturday Night Live thing, right? And so part of the conversation is Jim's like, well, I had a conversation with God. And Tammy Faye goes, well, so did I. Right.
Uh-huh.
And right. So often we hear that conversation with that higher power through layers of pain, suffering, belief system. So it's really kind of deconstructing those beliefs so we're not hearing it through a tainted layer. So it's also going, okay, like I'm hearing this, but is this really true, or is this another layer of a belief that really
Mhm.
I was given that I didn't create myself?
Yes. Yeah. And then from there, it's also our own self-doubt. So if this is really a higher power, then am I worthwhile? Am I worthy of hearing this? Because
Yeah,
I've also seen the other side of that, which is people getting into the holier than thou, and it being a kind of ranked. Well, I heard this. Well, I heard that in my conversation. And the reality to me is that if there is that in the experience, think again. Take another
yeah.
look.
There's no either or. There's no like it's really talking to the God goo is really a big giant gray conversation of goodness, right? It's
Hmm.
not absolutes. It's, and so, and the God goo is never going to say, you're better than that guy.
Hmm.
Nor is the God goo going to say, you're unworthy and they are. It doesn't work that way, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It all is. We're always going to hear the God goo through human expression because we're in a human body, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
still going to have some sort of uh formation through our senses and through our interpretation. But anytime it's absolute, anytime it's either or, anytime it's you must, you're not enough, or you're so good, and
Hmm.
not that you're so loved, but you're so good, you're so right. um
It's the judgment, the layer
it's
of
it's
judgment in there that you're talking
it's
about.
tainted, yeah.
Yeah.
you know a righteous man is never going to say he's righteous,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I have lived my life with one statement: the more I know, the less I know.
Oh,
And that's not
absolutely.
right. That's not going to the conversation with such humility that you're now, a carpet that people can walk over you. It's knowing that you are of that thing and that thing is of you.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of, oh, this is just is, it takes a lot of the human judgment, the human pain and suffering out of the equation. And you can have a really fun conversation. And it's supposed to be fun, everyone. And I think people forget that.
Hmm. Hmm. So when we take judgment out of the equation, we also the piece that's important to me is that it's a partnership. So even if I get inner guidance that I'm supposed to do something, or this is the better choice, or whatever, the right choice for me in this moment, I still have free will. I still get to choose. And no matter what, without me, the personality, the human, the physical body, God couldn't work through me.
Right.
We have to be, we are the co-creators.
Yeah. It's a co-creation process. And our big free will choice is very simple. It's not whether to go left or right. Our big free will choice is to choose to feel whole and complete, which is closer to that thing called God,
Mm.
or to feel separate. It's the biggest free will choice we have,
Mhm, mhm.
and so when I'm always in that conversation, that's the overlay, that's the big theme. Like, hey, God, who occasionally I dress up to look like Elvis. Hey, God, what decisions, thoughts, actions, things that I can do and be that's going to be closer to me realizing that I'm whole and complete and expressing that wholeness and completeness,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And if I believe I'm whole and complete, and sometimes I'm really good at this and sometimes I'm not, then I have to treat everyone like they're whole and complete.
So you're really then are impacting how you are with everybody else. So it's
Yeah.
not just for you, it is absolutely a way of how you live your life.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm really good at it and sometimes I'm just not. And that's okay. Every moment is a new choice. But I think when we have that anchor, when we have that place where we feel totally safe, home, in that conversation, in that energy of God, when
Mhm.
it's in every cell of our body, let me rephrase, when we activate it in every cell of our body, because it's
Uh-huh.
in every cell of our body,
Uh-huh.
there's a feeling of, oh, okay, that's good. Let's do that. Versus a low hum of anxiety and feeling unsafe
Mhm,
and
mhm.
feeling as if you're lost. And I think now more than ever, we require that touchstone, we require that anchor, um, so we can truly not just transform our own lives, but transform the world and how we operate in it.
And you just used the phrase, that low hum of anxiety. I want to flip that around, because when I am in that flow, I feel a low hum of joy, or maybe
Yeah.
it's a high hum. But it is that constant. It's not the emotional, it's not the highs and lows. It really is
Right.
that sense of, oh, this is how life works.
Yeah. And for all those people that have warrior nature, it's, because sometimes when we have that warrior nature, we can roll our eyes up like, oh, yeah, the birds and the flowers and the Care Bear, right? And so coming from somebody who has warrior nature, it's not flighty, that feeling
Right.
is really grounded.
Yes.
I
It's
always,
substantial.
it's huge. And I always, use the metaphor, I guess, that when you're in that feeling, you just put your hand out and stuff falls in it, right? Like it's that perfect kind of being in harmony with everything.
Yeah.
Right? You still have your individual thoughts, you still have your individual preferences, but you're not kind of fighting against everything. It just feels good. And it doesn't mean like it feels good Care Bear wise.
Right.
It just feels like home. That's the only way I can describe it. Like home.
Like home. That's lovely. That really is lovely, because there's that, when we go through life with that feeling of, oh, I'm home and I'm operating from home, we're not struggling. And so sometimes the universe comes along, and this is how I see it. We hit a situation where we feel uncomfortable. And I have the choice in that moment to say, oh, something's wrong with the other person, or why didn't the universe, give me what I asked for? Maybe it gave me what I needed.
Right.
But really to recognize, oh, okay, if this is happening, what am I needing to learn? What am I needing to look at? What am I needing to discover? How is this for me now, as opposed to why is it not working in the way that my little pea brain wants it to work?
Yeah. And then I'm going to wrap it around to trust, right? So most people think trusting the divine is this, total feeling, I'm always trusting the divine. There's no ifs, no ands, no buts. And if you can hear my eye roll, because there's an eye roll there, because that's not how trust works. Trust is a practice, and trust doesn't mean that everything you wanted is working out. Trust means that you will be safe, that you're trusting that you'll be safe in the unknown. And I think so often people fall down in the trusting the divine because they're like, I trust the divine and I didn't get what I want. And I go, but are you safe? And people go, yeah. Then you got what you wanted, right? Like really, like it's really about that. And a friend of mine, Maria Gam, we were once in conversation, and she's like, and I was, being angry with God. And she's like, yeah, when I'm angry at God and shaking my fist, I have this image of God shaking his fist right back, right? Because you are part of that divinity. It is a reflection. It's like giant Play-Doh. It doesn't have a consciousness that goes, oh, Jen, I know you said you wanted this, but I really think this is what you really want. No, it doesn't have that capacity. It's here to shower us with love and vibration of love, and then help us co-create with the how to move all the parts. But it's never gonna go, you should go this way. I'm gonna veto everything else and you're gonna go that way. No, it doesn't work that way. So co-creation is key. That deep understanding of a willingness to be showered with that much love, which frightens the heck out of people, by the way.
It does.
It does, right?
As much as we crave it.
Right.
Because
right?
that love, that frequency of unconditional love is is how creation happens. It's like it's the finances of creation. It's the building blocks of creation. And so to be that, I want to say it this way, powerful, to really see ourselves as co-creators takes a fair bit of responsibility, self-responsibility. And that's what I think a lot of people are scared about. Like, if I take responsibility, if I am really a co-creator, woof, what does that mean? Does that mean I get to check out? Does that mean I get to veg out? Does that mean that if things don't work out, it's my fault? All those kinds of things come to the plate to be looked at.
Yeah. And, you know, as we've grown in evolution of humanity, we are an instant gratification worlds. And when you are in that co-creative process, yes, it's instant, and no, it's not. And it's not an easy road. It's a simple road, but sometimes it's not easy. And I think so often people are like, tell me the movie I want to see, because they think that's easier. And actually it's not.
Yeah, it's like, give me the aspirin.
Yeah.
Don't make me have to change anything. My gosh.
And then they create suffering for themselves. They create a low grade, they're taking breadcrumbs from the universe when they can really, have the universe in the palm of their hand.
They could have the whole loaf.
I'm really hungry, if you haven't noticed.
So what can we do really to create more trust in our own lives?
I think you have to activate it, right? And so I utilize the body's divine intelligence to help activate that. That your body doesn't have free will, it's your mind and soul that does. Your body knows where to pump the blood. If everything works and you ask your body to raise its hand, it's not going to go, I could do it, but get back to me tomorrow, Jen, because I don't want to do it now. It doesn't have that capacity. So we use the body to help us activate and put us in the consciousness of trust.
What do you mean?
When you're in the real,
I'm not sure what that
I'm going
looks
to
like.
show you. I'm going
Okay.
to show you.
Yay.
So when you're actually in trust, you're actually in the consciousness of neutrality. And when you're in the consciousness of neutrality, you start to understand that the world is not happening to you, it's happening through you. And so if you have a challenge, you don't relate that challenge as a part of your essential nature. So if you have a challenge, you don't go, oh, look, I suck again because I have this challenge. You see it as an opportunity versus something that's threatening you or tweaking your feeling of lack of safety. So, Laurie, we're going to activate trust. I'm going to say it. Let's see what happens in your system. And if I use words that you don't understand, don't worry about it. Kind of just get on my bus with me. Okay.
Okay.
So close your eyes. Here goes. Divine intelligence, fill my body with the feeling and knowing of divine trust. And just share what you noticed or felt.
Oh, my breath.
You can open your eyes.
My breath just felt like it opened up. I felt this expansion in my heart center, in my chest cavity. And I immediately equated it. I don't know if equated is really the right word, but it brought to mind the countless times through different situations or different experiences or working with symbols that I feel that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it took not even 10 seconds.
Right.
Right.
It was instantaneous, really.
So that's an easy way to activate trust. So if you're having a moment of doubt or fear, you can just activate it. And then the more that you activate it, the less that little thing is going to tweak that fear and that doubt. And then you can also, when you activate that, the consciousness of trust inside of you, that's a great time to have a conversation with the divine and really go, hey, what do I need to know today? What am I
Yeah.
missing? Or I want to experience this. Who do I be and what do I do to experience that?
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another piece to that, and I don't know how you work with this, but that I find is so important for people is something about learning how to listen. So you've talked about asking the question, and that's a big piece. How do you teach people about how to listen?
I think the first thing is that a lot of people don't understand that their intuition is their soul and the divine speaking to them. And a lot of people want that intuition to be like, I get that intuition versus how they're actually receiving it. Right. I'm visual. I have all the clairs but smell. That one happens once in a while, but it's a right. So I'll get a visual, I'll get a word, I'll get a knowing, I'll get a sensation, but I've been working on my clairs for almost 20 years. Right. So the first thing is to understand how your intuition works. Do you get visuals? Do you get a knowing? Do you get an embodied sensation? I think when you start to understand that, there's a pause of deep listening. I also tell people to trick themselves, which is ask the question that you want sort of insight in, and then do something that keeps your body busy. Because then it's going to pop in your head because you're not trying to focus on it.
Right.
Right. And so often when you start to understand how you're getting that information, then you can also set time aside to have that deep listening.
It's why people get their greatest insights often in the shower because they're busy, soaping themselves up, and they get this sense of, oh my gosh, isn't this a brilliant idea? Or the solution to a problem they've been grappling with. Yeah.
And then it becomes like, oh, the less pressure that they can put on themselves to have that interaction with the divine, the easier that interaction with the divine is, right? Versus, oh my God, I need to know. I'm going to go back to Tammy Faye Baker again.
Okay.
Because there's this part where she's like, God, why don't I hear you? Why don't I hear you? And I want you to, go, you don't hear God because you're in judgment of yourself, right? It's also about, letting go of your judgment, letting you go of your not enough, in order to have that conversation. And deep listening takes stillness. I don't mean you have to sit on the mountain and go, but it does take a moment to pause. So I've been asking, what's my new program? I want to do a group program. What's my new program? Nothing. And the other day I went to the Korean spa and I sat down in the whirlpool and I went, oh, it was just right there. Right.
Yeah.
I took time to pause, to listen, to be still.
Yeah.
Instead of always being action. You wouldn't want to have a conversation with someone who was multitasking all the time. And we tend to do that while we're having this conversation with divine, because we tend to multitask when we do everything now. So if you want to be a good listener, you have to slow down and set time aside and practice
And practice getting quiet. People have a hard time being quiet. People have a hard time not wanting to fill, oh, I'm waiting in line, let me look at my phone. What if you took that time to just get quiet for just a few minutes?
I walk my dog. I walk about 20,000 steps a day. That's how much me and the dog are out. And I am freaking amazed at people who are walking their dog, looking at their phone, walking their dog. I'm like, what are you doing? It's 10 minutes. We have these baby foxes. So I'm walking the dog. There's a guy here walking, I'm looking at his phone. There's a woman sitting on the bench looking at her phone. and this fox goes right by the woman. And I walked past her. I was like, "Did you see the fox?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, "Why are you out in nature?" Like, right?
Walk your dog on the
But it's
treadmill.
that kind of, right. It's that kind of thing,
Mhm,
right? It's like be present. I think so
mhm.
many of us are not present. We're looking for the next great hit, the next great thing, you know, all of that is really addicting to our brains,
Yeah.
right? And so you're missing a lot of information from your own divinity,
Mhm.
because you're too busy focusing on, it's like you're looking for love in all the wrong places.
I had a conversation last week with somebody that's in my twice weekly meditation sessions. And he said, well, yeah, this was still difficult for me. Yeah, I had these intentions and these things I wanted to get from this. I said, well, what if you didn't have any intentions going in? There's a lot of stuff out there about, oh yeah, set an intention when you go to meditate. What if you allowed yourself to just get quiet? Or even if you feel like you can't get quiet, don't try and actively fill it before you even begin. Just go into it and see what happens. Oh, I'm thinking about this, that, and the other. Okay, just take a breath. Oh, and then in a moment, you have that space. It's like the divine, as you're calling it, needs space.
Yeah.
How can we hear? I can't hear you if I don't create space.
Yeah. And here's the thing, the divine is blasting information 24/7.
Mhm,
And so when we're not filling our heads with all of our human things, there's
mhm.
more space in it for the divine to go, hey, go that way, Jen, go that
Knock, knock.
way.
Yeah. So two things. I'd love for you to say a little bit about soul language.
I
I
would
have
be
an
honored.
interview that we did a long, long time ago, but it's not on Wisdom Talk Radio. And I think that was all about soul language. But I'd love for you just to at least say something about that here.
I would love to. So I was really mad and angry, and I was like, "Ah, why does this person and I get along and not that person? Where are my people? And I want to be closer to God." And, blah, blah, blah. And I sat down next to somebody who said, "We're going to be friends." And I went, "Totally. Why her and not this other woman across the way?" And what I heard through divine guidance was, "Oh, that's soul language." And I was like, "Okay." And after 6 or 7 months, I had this paradigm that puts tangibility to soul and the soul of a business. Because when humans have the words to put what they know deep down inside, they can automatically create a more solid connection. They have then a
Mm.
tangible tool to move from struggle to consciousness. And that's what I do. I help people identify their soul languages, and then I teach them how to put consciousness into everything they do. And time again, I hear the same thing. "Oh my God, are you in my head? Oh my God, how do you know that?" Like, oh my God, that's so right. Like, it's
Because
amazing.
why? Tell me, finish that thought though.
Because, humans love to have a word, they love to have that kind of structure to help them understand themselves or express themselves to others. And most of them don't have that structure. They don't have the words to put around it,
Mhm,
not because of lack of trying, but because they're too damn close to themselves.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
when they have that knowledge about their soul, they can really access all of that goodness to create a life that they want. So each one of us has three core energies of soul. We call these languages. Your
Mhm.
mission, how you feel that mission, and then your soulful personality, which is how your soul prefers to go through life. And I
Mhm.
can give a one-liner to every soul on this planet, and that becomes your miles marker of success in consciousness. So my one-liner is I create balance for myself, because it all starts at home, and then for others, through love, integrity, and courage. So if I'm not being and doing that, I'm creating suffering. It's that simple,
Mm, mhm.
right? And so every day I go, okay, what's the internal and external action of being that one-liner? And that's created a pretty good life so far.
Mhm, mhm. And how does that, if we circle back around to trust, how has your work with that demonstrated what we've been talking about trust?
Every time I talk to my soul, I gain more information, or I unveil more information that I know to be true. I let go of those things that I was told to that are true. And here's a great story. I'm in my car yelling at God and going, okay, I want clear proof that you know who I am. And while we're at it, I want my dead dad. I want to prove that my dead dad is supporting me from the other side. I want it. And there's radio.
Well, you're demanding.
I know. And this song comes on the radio that reminds me of my dad. I'm like, you know what? That's too damn easy, God. Like, enough. The announcer comes on and he goes, hey, thanks all for those requests from the oldies and all of those great, dance places and bars. And he starts going through them. I'm rolling my eyes. And then he goes, and Brothers 3. And I drive off the side of the road because that was the name of my father's bar that I forgot he had. Yeah. So if that's not saying like God is real, that energy's there, that it can move this guy, this thing, then I don't know what is, right? And those situations time and time again have happened to me because I'm connecting to my soul, I'm connecting to God.
Yeah.
And those God moments those keep you going in those moments where you're like, what the heck is going, like, how could this happen? Right? When you know that, okay, I'm not quite sure why this is happening, but I'm going to move into a sense of I'm safe no matter what. And we're gonna ride this one out. Even in the worst of times, at the end of it, when I'm through the other side, I feel closer to God because I understand all of the things that were in the way and all of those beliefs that were never going to support me to move forward. And that experience helped me let them go.
Yeah. And when we can look at whatever the experience is, to look for what are those pieces? What are the things that I got to look at and let go of? And that happens for me all the time. I had an experience this weekend where I was with some friends and I found myself bugged when I went home by a few things that happened. And it was just a simple things. I thought, well, da. And then I realized, oh, if I just flip that and get to see, how am I like that? What's going on for her that's coming through? It has nothing to do with me. All of that, it was just like having a big aha in my own heart. And then I could really feel all the love again.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things about soul language, like when you really kind of know the players, meaning know the people in your life, soul languages, and know your own, you're like, oh, I don't have to take that personal.
Right.
Because that's just them being them, right? You really understand, listen, everyone, we're all on our own channel.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make cameo appearances on other people's channels, but we're still all on our channel. And then when you start to go, oh, I just need to understand what I want to put into the relationship field with everything on this planet, it becomes a lot less struggle and a lot more predictable. And I don't mean by a sense of control, but the more goodness you put into every relationship field, naturally, the more goodness is going to come back to you. That's the way the law works.
So predictable meaning, hey, miracles are here. They're real.
Yeah.
And they're happening all the time. And that's why I love to say that, our inner guidance system is real. Our inner compass is real. It is not a metaphor. It is actually a reality. And we get to live within that if we so choose.
Right. And if we don't, that's okay. And if you don't, sometimes that's okay. The more that you can be without judgment for yourself, the less struggle you're going to create all across the board.
Right. The last thing I want to ask you is just I noticed that you have a free gift for our audience, and I wonder if you could tell us about that.
Sure. I have so
What
many
was
free
it?
gifts. What was it? I have so many.
It was something you
gifts.
sent to me. Okay, I can tell you by the URL. It's
Yes,
Sacred
please.
Practice.
Oh, okay, great. I have so many free gifts. I love content, so I love giving. So it's really important because I'm a warrior that I have a sacred practice that works. Okay. I'm never going to sit on a mountaintop and go, right? My body has to move. So sacred practice has several sections of it, right? And so this free gifts helps you create a sacred practice that works for you, that integrates into your life. So you'll start to actually do it rather than being told to meditate and that doesn't resonate with you. See, sometimes people are like, you have to meditate, and I'll go, that doesn't resonate with me. And people will go, no, you're in resistance. I was like, no, it really doesn't work with my body. I could do a walking meditation, right? So it helps you create a sacred practice that you can actually use. It can be integrated, and then it can evolve as you evolve.
Okay, wonderful. That sounds like a really useful free gift.
Yeah.
A really good useful gift. Forget the free. Yeah. Jennifer, thank you so much for being a guest here on Wisdom Talk Radio. I've loved having a conversation with you, and you're right, the time has flown, and we could keep going, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could. And I thank you so much, because I love when we can get metaphysically down and dirty with someone, because it always promotes something in my head later on. And I love good conversation. And this has been the best conversation of my day. So thank you.
Thank you. For me too.
Yay.
And to our listeners, our viewers, thank you for being with us today here at Wisdom Talk Radio. Join us here regularly for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. And remember, you can find us on your favorite place to listen to podcasts, whatever that may be, because we're on all the platforms that I know of. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please leave us a review, because when you do that, you help other people discover Wisdom Talk Radio. You help other people discover the kind of wisdom and provocative conversation that happen here. And you help people to transform the world. For more about deepening your own connection with your inner guidance, take the Quantum Connection quiz now.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.